Welcome back. You're still watching DAYBREAK on this 19th day of October 2021. It's on the eve of Mashujaa Day, a feat that will be held tomorrow in Kirinyaga County at Uhuru Stadium. And of course, we'll be taking you there as soon as that happens tomorrow morning with the best of coverage. But here in studio, we are talking about the latest in the world of politics and also looking ahead to what the promise is for 2022. Joining us here in studio, we have Edwin Sifuna, the Secretary General of ODM. Welcome back to the show. Thank you. We have Senator Kasanga, nominated Senator from Wiper Party. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And of course, we'll shortly be joined by Richard Onyonka, the Member of Parliament for Kitutu Chache South, and Professor Lonyangapuo, the Governor of West Pokot. As soon as they're able to join us here, we'll be in a position to start that conversation with them. But I want to quickly look at the stories making headlines. So the front page of the Daily Nation, you'll see on the warpath, you're talking about the head of state who cannot sack his deputy, but he could use other legal means to remove him. Gloves are off a day after DP Ruto publicly complained that he had been branded a thief despite having supported his boss to win. President Kenyatta vowed to kick out corrupt leaders from his government before end of his term in office next year, saying he has nothing to lose. Then this similar story is on Uhuru to Mount Kenya. Wait for my signal. This is the president who again visited Kirinyaga. On the Standard, you'll see the story being President reignites debate on succession politics, urges restless mountain to wait for his signal. Even as top aspirants dangle goodies in their scramble for a piece of the vote-rich region. And of course, the conversations continue. And I just want to get a feel of what the president was saying by listening to something he said while on location. Do you have that? All right, of course, he said that in Kikuyu, talking about someone who has been visiting that area and sort of appearing to be lying. S.J. Sifuna, who is he talking about?
I think now it is an open secret that relations between the president and his deputy have all but collapsed. Mm-hmm. So we have seen those exchanges. Of course, we started with the deputy president outrightly calling the president a con and saying akwende because anasema ni matapeli, and now the president, of course, firing back. It is clear that there is no relationship left. Mm-hmm. So, it worries some in some quarters that a relationship between the two top officials of a country can be as bad as it is. But at the end of the day, this is politics. He has said somewhere that one day he will tell the public what exactly led to the fallout, and this is something that we will be eagerly looking forward to hear, so that we understand what is the cause of the current state of affairs between the president and his deputy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Senator Kasanga, I know we have held this discussion previously, and there has been several sentiments on the show, but when it gets to this point that the president has actually to use his mother tongue to communicate to the residents of Kirinyaga County, why is he choosing this route?
Well, thank you first, Sam, for having me. It's been a while, and to my panelists, Sifuna there. Good morning, everyone. Morning. Yeah, it's been a while, and you should not be surprised when the president decides to use his mother tongue to speak to his people. And a bit of it probably could be frustration. You know, the fact that he has worked so hard for his people, and for whatever reason, there are other politicians who are going to his quote-unquote bedroom and trying to convince them that the government has done nothing for them. Mm-hmm. So maybe he feels that by communicating using his mother tongue will be most effective. But I would look at it as maybe a bit of frustration that his people don't seem to appreciate the amount of work that this government has done for Mount Kenya, which of course is also not a secret, and it is clear what they have done. Mm-hmm. But I keep saying, and I keep saying in other forums, that even as we monitor this Mount Kenya being wooed by the different politicians, as now we can see the activities upbeat, and I'm glad now we are not talking only about the deputy president who has been the only one campaigning. Now at least I'm happy your DM is upbeat, and the Right Honorable is on his way. And it's beautiful. Now we can have good conversations here when we come. I think some you remember I was getting very frustrated because we only kept talking about only one presidential candidate. Now we can debate, you know, a bit more, you know, robustly. And as we watch Mount Kenya being wooed, I know, and I've said this before, in the end, Mount Kenya knows where it wants to go. And I think when the firimbi, you know, when the whistle is finally blown, I am certain this time around we shall see them just coalesce and they will run behind wherever it is that they go. I doubt that they really don't see what the government has done for them. This government has done a lot for Mount Kenya, and I truly doubt, and it would be unfortunate if the people of Mount Kenya cannot realize what President Uhuru has done for them. It would be really most unfortunate. And, you know, he is on his end of his term. He's about to go home. And, you know, he should retire, of course. Our expectation is that the president should retire. But like any other, you know, incumbent, he would like to see either part of his legacy, you know, being held on and moving on. So it doesn't come as a surprise that he may want to, you know, to rally behind a certain candidate or another. And it is in his interest that his backyard understands what it is that he wants to do. So him speaking to his people in his mother tongue, I think, is coming out of, you know, a culmination of these issues, trying to explain to them that, you know, this is what we have done for you, and this is where we want to go. Don't be cheated by others who are trying to take the focus from the work that we have been doing. So that is the way I would understand him. Yeah, Sam.
All right, and of course, there are so many things that he said, including someone wakes up in the morning and all they do is tell stories. Then that person moves from one place to another, still giving stories. What time will that person work? The person seems to be moving around inciting people. And joining us now is Professor Lonyangapuo, the governor of West Pokot County. Good morning, Prof. And as you listen to what the president was saying yesterday, of course, in his mother tongue, but translated part of what is an excerpt of what I've just read, what comes to mind? Because I remember in 2017, yes, as you are running for the seat of West Pokot, you also in support of the candidature of President Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto. Or are you thinking now, 10 months, actually less than 10 months to the end of term of President Kenyatta?
First of all, let me greet all the viewers and listeners of this debate this morning. Greetings all the way from Kapenguria, the very famous Kapenguria, where the Kapenguria 6, the liberators of this nation, were detained for a year before you guys now have all the freedom to talk freely as Kenyans. I am also speaking in my capacity as a party leader of a brand new party that has just been released last week. It is called the Kenya Union Party, aspiring to continue with the ideals of our forefathers, of making Kenya remain as one and making Kenyans to love one another. So I listen to you, and I know a few months are left before the president leaves the scene, and before a new one comes. I am proud as a Kenyan that we elected our president, the current one now. As always, we have always stood behind our leaders, and I will still insist as a leader today that there is no harm standing with the person we elected to the last minute.
Right.
We can debate, analyze, argue about his leadership style, but the point remains is the pillar of unity in this country. And I'm happy that President Uhuru Kenyatta is going on with his work tremendously well. Those of us who are working with him, as I'm a governor now in this county, county of Hidden Treasure, West Pokot, and I ascribe to the ideals of the people of Kenya, that we continue to remain as a united people and work under our president. And to me, whether he speaks in his mother tongue, just like I do, but whatever we speak, it resonates very well with our souls as Kenyans. And we have very many vernaculars around, and we encourage all of them. So I am not surprised that he can speak his language, but if he wants to pass a point, very well. That point is not excluding all of us, but he means well for us as a people of Kenya.
Right, and because there's a story on, is it the Daily Nation, talking about the head of state cannot sack his deputy. So how does but could use other legal means to remove him. How does the president and his deputy, William Ruto, manage their final 9 months in office, or is it not even necessary?
First of all, let us use me as an example. My deputy deserted duty when he was elected, up to now. And nothing harmful has come to Kenyans living in this county. So I am not looking at any perceived differences between the two leaders as an issue. As long as they have not broken any spectacular rule to make Kenyans feel unsafe, let there be freedom of speech, let there be freedom of association, and you expect such kind of divisions and decisions as a change of dispensations are about to change. But the amazing story is that it's not new. We have always witnessed this from the time we received independence. Anytime there is a new regime about to change, this kind of arrangements and divisions normally arise. But I'm happy that they normally arise within the concept of Kenyans living as one. This is the beauty about the whole thing.
Okay.
So no one who is listening to me should ever worry at all that maybe something strange will happen. Nothing.
Okay, all right. And SG Sifuna, of course, even as the country prepares for the next election, you get to that point that you'd want to manage politics from the word go. So what must presidential aspirants or candidates, once they become so, how should they deal with picking a running mate to avoid such a situation that you have in the country, if at all it's a bad thing?
I think it is very difficult to police human relationships, Sam. You start off as friends and along the way things happen. I think the considerations that go into who becomes somebody's running mate, and the governor is here, has alluded to his deputy. I mean, at the end of the day, it was Governor Lonyangapuo's choice, this person who he now says deserted duty. And I don't think it is fair, Governor, for you to say that nothing wrong has come to the people of West Pokot, because this person was elected to help you run the county. And I believe that even with that desertion, he probably still draws a salary. I saw a story like that in the newspaper at some point. If you look at the considerations that go into who becomes somebody's running mate, it is simple arithmetic most times. It is balancing clan interests in the various regions. It is balancing tribal interests. It is balancing regional interests to see where you can probably show up your numbers. And sometimes these relationships, they are built up to be more than what they are not. I remember, for instance, here in Nairobi, we were treated to a very serious show between Governor Sonko and Igathe. And, you know, they were pushed into a studio, they were dancing together, and all sorts of camaraderie. Of course, very, very plastic camaraderie that is not even skin deep. The same happened with President Uhuru and his deputy. We who were watching politics then were at pains to explain what common thing, what common ideological grounding these people had that was bringing them together, especially in 2013. And many concluded that, in fact, it was a marriage of convenience out of the need for the then ICC suspects to stick together and to milk whatever political capital they could from, you know, that case. So if a relationship is not genuine, it's not genuine. And sometimes we're forced by political circumstances to enter into agreements or arrangements with people who you probably share very little in terms of values, in terms of the things that you believe in. And such relationships, just like even normal relationships in life, with very little strain, the cracks just emerge. So unfortunately, it's a political reality that we use this position sometimes to show up the numbers. You can see the debate across the country on where the leading presidential candidates are going to get their running mates from.
Right.
For now, really, the biggest consideration appears to be regional balance and shoring up the numbers to ensure that the person who you get on your ticket is somebody who can give you a boost in terms of the numbers for you to be able to win.
And Senator Kasanga, the president, while still in Kirinyaga yesterday, said a few things, including, I told you, I don't like noise. All I care about is work. So we need to be one to make sure no one is attacked wherever they are. I had a visitor who came through here. I don't know if you saw him. Decide for yourselves. Did you hear that? Did you read that?
No, I didn't. I must have missed that one. Maybe because it was not translated when I had it.
Okay.
But now that you're translating it.
Yes, so Kenyans are wondering, who is that visitor? There have been many visitors to the Mount Kenya.
No, I don't think it should be a secret. It's rather obvious. I think Sifuna must have been part of that entourage. I don't think it's a secret that, of course, the president, you know, is leaning towards supporting the Right Honorable Raila Odinga for presidency. And he's trying to get Mount Kenya, you know, to embrace him. That is not coming as a secret at all, and it is not a surprise. And it is good he's speaking to his people so that they can also open their, you know, they can open their minds and they can open their hearts to the possibilities of many other candidates. You know, we have seen just the deputy president running ahead alone. And you can see the frustration that the president has had because he's been trying to get his agenda going, and yet his deputy has been busy campaigning for a long time. Actually, we've never stopped seeing campaigns, you know, since 2017, since the contested election. This country has not settled down at all. We've been in a campaign mode, you know, from some of the quarters. And frankly speaking, it has been very frustrating, and I've said it many times here, that part of the reason, even before COVID came, our economy never picked up from the post-election. I mean, from the election of 2017, has been the fact that we have been in a total campaign mode, which has continued even through COVID time. And now, you know, the next election of 2022 is finding us still in an election mode. So we've had a 5-year period of being purely on an election mode, which is absolutely quite frustrating, actually, for the president. And you see, again, for the president, when you have your person there, your teammate there, you expect that your teammate is playing with you. Is playing with you, advancing the agenda that you promised the Kenyans to advance. Yet now you have a situation where your own is the one that is fighting you. So even the work of the opposition, you know, you begin to wonder where is the space for opposition when your own is fighting against each other. So we saw that playing out. We've seen it playing out in parliament. We've seen this battle between the president and the deputy, you know, playing out, especially in parliament, where it has cost Kenyans a lot of time. In fact, now, as we go into the next election, another thing we have been discussing is that do Kenyans even realize really what is the function of their members of parliament? Because, you know, you will hear, you know, some seem to have the capacity to do, you know, development works and, you know, give all sorts of goodies to people on the ground. Yet that is not really the work of the member of parliament. They're supposed to be legislating, you know, and, you know, looking out for, you know, budgetary issues, you know, these issues of the government having overshot its ceiling, budget ceiling. But our members of parliament are busy campaigning. You know, a good section of them have been busy campaigning the whole of these 5 years. Busy handing out, you know, goodies to Kenyans. Where are they getting even the funds to do these things? These are the questions that Kenyans really need to start asking themselves as we go into the next election. So you can see the frustration of the president. It has been there. We have seen it. Of course, now you can see he's coming out to speak to his people so that they don't get confused. And you know how, you know, politicians and propaganda, social media propaganda has been used so significantly this time in the last 5 years. We've seen so much social media propaganda playing out, which can be very confusing to Kenyans. So a lot of conversations need to happen to our people so that when we are going into the next election, the right decisions are made. And we can see through all this propaganda and these stories and, you know, the noise that the president is talking about. Hopefully Kenyans can see beyond that.
And I'll be asking you why One Kenya Alliance is a little quiet. But Governor Lonyangapuo, I would want us to transition to the missed targets on voter numbers. But as we do so, so you hear the president saying, look at the visitor who was here, look at them and make the right decision when the time comes. You're a new party leader, and I think we should start by actually congratulating you, Kenya United Party. And one wonders, why did you ditch KANU while you have a presidential candidate or aspirant in the name of the KANU chairman, Gideon Moi? And now, how does your agenda change? I mean, who will you be working with?
First of all, I want to remind Sifuna and my friends also who are in this debate with me that it's not strange for somebody to exit and stop working with other leaders. Sifuna is working in a very serious party as Secretary General. And for example, his party leader, Raila Amolo Odinga, has had relationship with many leaders in this country, and they exit and they meet again and again. So it should not be a surprise that even my deputy exited. So the beauty about Kenya is that we don't fight. You find that whatever you believe in is not available, or your desires have changed, you exit and go on. So we should not be surprised at all. Secondly, Kenya is a very beautiful country. The more we continue doing our politics, the more we continue doing development. So have you come out, or you guys are condition in Nairobi? You go to the countryside and see the way development is moving on. Amidst all the talking going on. So I think Kenyans love talking as they work. So let's give them credit for that, we have never stopped developing our country and so on. And but my friend also talked about my former party, KANU. We know what KANU did for this country. He liberated this country with our forefathers, the leaders that were there. So by myself joining another party, it doesn't mean that the other party has failed. So I'm adding flavor and value so that competition will be there. We will also be meeting with my former party, KANU, in fielding candidates. My party is not going to field a president candidate. Just as you know, very many parties are not going to do. We are living in a very nice dispensation where a coalition of parties will be moving and working together and rallying behind a presidential candidate whose vision may also be rallying and moving well with the other parties. So for us, we have just come to the scene. We believe in the unity of Kenyans. We will be examining those who will be offering themselves as president candidates, and then our party will work and debate and examine his vision or her vision, and then at an opportune time, we will make a decision to invite him or her to present his needs to our party,
Prof,
so that we see whether we can, whether his vision is in line with what we do.
Prof,
if so, then we also now debate what role we will be playing together with him or her in his so-planned government.
Prof,
which
just
I am
hold on.
sure
just hold on,
that all those
Professor.
president candidates
Professor,
have Kenya as one.
Right, Professor, you live in this
develop
country.
Kenya
You live in
in
this
the
country.
agenda, which we believe in West Pokot here.
Professor, I'm asking you, since you excuse me, since you live in this country, you've been seeing the people that have been traversing the country, asking for the vote. You also know what's going on in your county, the persuasion of the people. You don't know where you might end up working, which party you might end up working with, or even the presidential candidate, as of now?
Let me tell you, can you name and tell me who have offered a president candidate? Have you seen their manifestos? Wait. If you don't know, just come and wait and look at what the professor is going to say. We will be waiting and seeing those who want to unveil their manifestos. They haven't reached there yet. They are still selling their names. They have not been, their parties have not nominated anybody as a president candidate yet. So I mean, people are just concluding, just wait. Maybe even myself, I don't know. So we still have a long way. One day in politics is a mighty long time.
Okay.
So let's give our leaders room to sell themselves, and then at a later stage we see a written document
Okay, okay, all right.
And then also those presidential candidates will have been supported by their parties, and you see them now in the arena when they are now saying, I declare my candidate. Have you had any like that yet? They are still trying to size and size themselves.
Okay, all right, that's fine. And I want us to talk about the people that will be making this decision. As of 2017, there were 19.6 million registered voters. IBC is targeting to register another 7.2 million so that that voters register can go up to 26 million. But that may not happen because IEBC in its second week of voter registration has missed the target of 3 million. They have only registered 491,968. That's just almost 492,000. And some of the counties that we'll refer to, West Pokot, where Governor Lonyaga Puo comes from, has registered 8,800. It's one of the highest in terms of percentage performance. Elgeyo Marakwet has 7,809. Wajir, 7,337. If you were to look at Nairobi, 43,137 new registered voters, but also pretty low if you were to compare that against the target of more than 800,000. I'm looking for Bungoma, 17,079 votes, and Makueni, 8,673. Of course, the voter targets really missed here. And Senator Kasanga, as you reflect on this, what's going on the ground that you would be reporting another missed target the second week? IBC has consistently said that they don't have resources for a second voter registration drive. So this is it. If we don't get enough registered voters this time, we may not up until 2022.
Yeah, this is definitely a very sad situation. And I think as leaders, we all need to be activated to talk to Kenyans to come out and register widely and as many as possible, and especially the young people. They need to really come out and register. And you see, some of this can be attributed to the fact that we are not having adequate civic education. You know, ahead of any election, civic education must be done. And I know, you know, I've listened to Jebukati, I've listened to the IBC talk about their budgetary constraints and the fact that, you know, running an election in this country is so expensive based on, you know, all the stopgap measures to have a very transparent, you know, election has caused it to be very expensive. And because of that, they have to manage their budgets and everything. But the fact that we are not doing adequate civic education, I think we are shooting ourselves in the foot as Kenyans, and we need to correct this issue as soon as possible. And in fact, in our own capacities as leaders, we have to go out there and we have to speak to Kenyans. When we were doing the by-election in Goma Sumba, we really did impress on our citizens to come out and register en masse, and especially the young people. And you see, a lot of this also goes to the fact that a lot of our young people and a lot of our people are not probably, you know, well-versed and well-educated on what is the role of their members of parliament. In fact, even just speaking to people on the ground when we were there, you would hear some complaining, our senator has never done anything for us. And then you ask them, really, what is the role of your senator? And you realize that they don't understand that actually your senator does not have a budget to build a hospital. His function is to ask questions, ask the governor, why has this not been done, or this, or raise questions that are raised by the citizenry. Then he, you know, he can check on and monitor what the governor is doing with the funds that have been given to him. Again, the members of parliament, you find that our citizens don't quite understand. There's a CDF, but then there's a legislative part of you know, our member of parliament, you know. And, you know, these are the issues now we have to grapple with. And even us as leaders now, we have to wake up in our own capacities and really speak to Kenyans and, you know, try and break down this issue, because I think as government, there's a failure of active civic education towards an election. And this is what would have prompted Kenyans maybe to come out more. Maybe there are a lot of political noise that the president is also talking about has caused a bit of apathy. And, you know, there are a lot of, in fact, if you speak to a lot of platforms, you will hear people saying, I'm not going to vote. I'm so disappointed. I've not had work. I've not had anything to eat. Why should I
So
why should I vote?
Think should conduct that civic education?
It's the work of the government to make sure there's a budget for civic education. That goes without saying. And, well, now the government is grappling with empty coffers. Maybe that is why there's no budget for active civic education. And, you know, this is really, it's not correct. It's not correct. It's something we should, you know, we should have tackled very seriously, even in parliament, to make sure that the government running towards this election, there are these functions that are actually happening. But now that is not happening, it is not lost, because here we are as leaders, and we should use as many platforms as possible to have these conversations. Social media can be used. We are always meeting up in groups. So rather than just going to talk about our manifestos, we should be actually asking Kenyans to come out and encourage them to come out and register in large numbers. These missed targets are not a good thing for our country. And yet this is going to be a very significant election, considering we have a government that is now, retiring. It's a time for a change, a serious change in the country. And it's important that a lot of our registered voters participate in this change, for ownership, so that the country now can move together as one. So I think this is a missed target, and we have to all be activated towards it and towards encouraging Kenyans to come out and register as much as possible.
Okay, and SG Sifuna, of course, when you look at the numbers and the highest percentage of these 7.2 million adults who don't have who are not registered voters would be the young people, because IEBC says that between 2017 and now, 4.5 million identity cards have been issued. If civic education or voter education or public participation is not happening, then how are we expecting these young people and even part of the 19 million registered voters to know what they are supposed to do, the role of all these positions? Have we forgotten them and just carried on with the political agenda?
No, I think there is quite deliberate effort in many areas to try and get people to register, to understand the importance of being a voter. But as Senator alluded to, there's a lot of disillusionment in this country with government generally. The voter really isn't interested on who is supposed to do what. The voter really is interested in their life, and that is why we as ODM have said that in this particular election in 2022, we are going to put everything we do. The individual has to be at the center of every proposal that you're making. Because all these things, if they're not helping to improve somebody's life, I mean, what are you saying? So I am very proud of the effort that has gone into voter sensitization. We have had very good relationships with many of the county returning officers for IEBC here in Nairobi, Mr. Joseph Mele. He's very cooperative. We have our teams on the ground as ODM, because we are one of those parties that have budget for civic education. We have spent quite a lot of, quite a tidy sum of money trying to, get volunteers to, I don't want to say round up, but to help us identify these people who might be having IDs and they are not registered to vote. But at the end of the day, Sam, we must always remember that registration for voting in this country remains voluntary. Even voting remains voluntary. So that whereas we make the effort to convince people why it is important for them to participate in the decisions of this country, even if you are upset with your MCA or you are upset with your senator, there's only one way that you can change things, or not registering is a double-edged sword. You're just shooting yourself in the foot. You will not be able to do anything about that person if you don't register. So there are also other issues, Sam, because we are a country that is accustomed to do things the last minute. You will see a surge in registration numbers during the last week of registration, and this is something that is historical. It happens all the time. There were also questions that were raised about the projections by IEBC. I remember seeing my good friend Chebukati sweating before a committee of parliament just to explain even how they came up with these projections. So as we continue to encourage people to register, there are a lot of factors, Sam, and I have engaged in this topic on the ground, including even the question of identity cards, especially in border counties. In places like Busia, Bungoma, all these counties that border Uganda and Tanzania, even in Migori, there has been a very deliberate effort from especially the security forces. They have put roadblocks in the way of people registering. I was in Garissa recently, and they were telling us that when you cross the bridge of I think it's River Tana, you have to show identification to now enter Kenya. And there are a lot of roadblocks that have been placed in the path of young women and young men in Garissa, for them to be able to acquire that all-important document, the identification document. There's, I think, a vetting process that you are vetted to ascertain that you are a Kenyan, and it becomes very restrictive. And the relationship between the public and the security forces and the people in government who undertake this registration is not the best relationship. So it is even hide and seek in some of these border counties.
Right.
People don't want to voluntarily present themselves in government offices. There's all sorts of dynamics down there. But we hope that one of the things that I would like to see, and I've spoken to Honorable Raila, one of the things that I would like to see is a move towards automatic or mandatory issuance of these identification documents. Immediately you are born, we need to put in place a system that tracks you from the day you're born. They give you a number. When you turn 18, the system automatically generates an ID card for you. It automatically registers you as a voter. I would even want for us to get to a level where voting is mandatory in this country. Because we want all of us to participate in this decision so that nobody can stand aside when things are going wrong and say, oh, it is you guys who voted for this person. So
right.
it is our collective responsibility to participate in the decision making of this country. And I want to urge people, even as we put more effort as political parties, as ODM, and as IBC and all the other stakeholders, even as we put effort, we want to encourage people to understand that it really is up to them to make the decisions that will put this country on the right path.
And Governor Lonyangapuo, I'm looking at your county. It's, like I said, it's one of the best performing in terms of percentage of people that have come through, because the target is 58,675, and so far you've registered 8,800. That's 30% performance. There's only one county that is ahead of you, which is Samburu County with 31%. But still 30% is lower than 50%, being the target that should have been in the second week. What's going on, and what's preventing the residents there from coming out, and what have you seen working?
First of all, we need to recognize and remember the times we are living in. This pandemic has depressed our economy. It has messed up livelihood for families the whole of the world over, but Kenya here in particular. Kenyans are struggling to have food. They are struggling to take their children to school. Even going to the farm, remember this is the time we should be expecting a crop from our farms. Some areas like West Pokot here, the rains didn't come in good time, although it is a bit green now, but the rains came late, we don't have much. These are some of the things that have affected the attendance and the percentages of the new voters from coming out. What we will continue to do is to encourage and continue to move and tell our people to avail themselves. In West Pokot here, a number of young men, especially around the border, when there was delayed rains here, they moved to their neighboring country here in Uganda. Normally, that's what we do. The Ugandans also move around when because of pastoralism. But at this time, our people went. So most of the young men are there. We have worked together now to go and inform them to come back. So to me, the best thing to do is to continue telling our people to go and register themselves, and also ask the IBC to up their game. You cannot have one officer or two officers moving around with a gadget. I mean, in fact, that's some of the complaints I got from the people who want to register. They come queuing, they look around, and this fellow is moving from place to place. I mean, I don't why can't they get many people registering and then
they say they don't have the budget.
Pay the money later. I mean, they need to improvise.
They say they
so
don't have the budget.
I think all is not lost. We need to improve. I am asking the people of West Pokot to continue coming in large numbers. This number that was given to us is very small, I know. Meaning we can overshoot it over this, and we'll even go more than the. I mean, I don't know how they quote the quota. I know more I have so more than 30,000 of our young people who have IDs now in this county. So, but let's hope all of them can do it. We continue. Let's not give up. We continue to encourage our people to come. And register.
All right. I was saying there that IBC said they don't have sufficient budget. That's why they reduced the number of kits per ward, but also to indicate there that they used the census of 2019 to arrive at the number of adults as of now, which should be at about 26-point-something million, versus the registered voters, which is 19.6, gives you a difference of about 7.2 million. Of course, there could be people that may have passed on at different circumstances, but they're working with that target, reducing it to 6 million, saying that it's 10% of that adult population that may not be registered. I want us to take a short break here. When we come back, we'll be talking about the campaign trail, the pitches that we've had, what the leaders are saying, the presidential hopefuls, they are preaching to the people, and the practicality of attaining this at such a time that the country is in.